Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Second to None podcast. It's the podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network that covers all things SEC football related, and we are here in week 2. When I say we, I mean myself, Blayne Gilmer, and my co-host, Tavarres King. Tavarres, we have another full slate of games here in week 2, but man, we finally get to move week 1. You know, you got to put it in the rearview mirror. You know that as a player, you got to put that in the rearview mirror and look ahead to week 2. So, man, what are your thoughts just right off the top going into week 2? What are you excited to see, to learn about some of these SEC teams?
Man, I'm excited to see, like you said on the last episode, if the teams that were expected to win and have cupcake games this week, if they'll be ready to roll, or if they'll be snoozing, if they'll come out snoozing. I'm interested to see if Georgia comes out ready to roll. Florida, interested to see what they do with their quarterback situation. Auburn, I'm interested to see if they can, look how they look. They put up a lot of points. They hung a 60 piece on those guys. So I'm interested to see if they can do that again against another kind of cupcake opponent. But it's going to be a fun week 2 as well. With the big game, in my opinion, probably being Texas at Arkansas.
Yeah, Texas at Arkansas also, but you are right. Tennessee does have a big contest there when they've got Pittsburgh coming to Knoxville. So that's definitely a step up from Bowling Green. Also a first conference matchup. We got Kentucky and Missouri going at each other. The first SEC action, those guys tangling in there. But today, guys, on our Wednesday episodes, what we're doing is we're telling you what the lines are on these games and what does that mean? How does the experts, because those guys are experts out there in the desert, TK. They ain't doing it to try to lose money out there. Those guys. No, those guys that have their sources. They're getting their information, and we're trying to decipher that for you here. But that you can take advantage of that, guys, if you use Bet Online, who our show is brought to you by. It's football season once again, guys. All of the action you could want is over at Bet Online. It's always the number one spot for pro and college football action. They got things like, tomorrow, September 9th, the Buccaneers and Cowboys are kicking off the NFL season over there. Guys, there's a $500,000 NFL mega contest, also 200,000 NFL survivor pool. But with that Buccaneers and Cowboys game, if you head on over to Bet Online and use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 100% welcome bonus, you can take advantage of that opening day super promo. If you make a bet on Thursday, September 9th, the opener, which is tomorrow, between the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers and Dallas Cowboys, if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25 for you customers only when signing up using the promo code NFL100. Bet Online, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. So, TK, without further ado, man, we're going to go ahead and throw these spreads up here. If you're watching along on the 365 Sports YouTube channel, the first thing that jumps right off the bat, and TK's laughing off screen here, you have the mighty Bears of Mercer coming to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. TK, my question is, should these games even be allowed anymore? Alabama playing somebody like Mercer?
Listen, man, Mercer's got to get that bread. They got to get that money. So that's the only reason, though. It's not going to be too competitive.
I mean, Alabama's going to have to put like their kicker at quarterback or something to keep from scoring points in this game.
They'll probably steamroll them, which is why there's a big NA up there.
Yeah, there's no spread on this game. Bet Online didn't even set a line on this game because of how bad it's going to be, and there's a couple more like that this week. But for certain, I'm sure you're going to see Tyson, the backup quarterback, who is Bear Bryant's grandson. So I'm sure there'll be some history, some feel good stuff going on there at Alabama with that when Bryce Young gets yanked out of the game probably midway through the first quarter after they've already hung 50 or something like that, but we'll see. Of course, Nick Saban it tends to be a gentleman in some of these cases. He may he may take it a little easy on them. Who knows how that'll play out in Tuscaloosa. Then, of course, you have the other cupcake games we'll hit real quick. Alabama State comes to Auburn, so Auburn gets another Akron, one of the worst football teams in the country now. Alabama State comes in, so we'll see if Auburn can look as good as they did the week before. LSU gets an easy opportunity to rebound. That says at McNeese. It's actually McNeese coming to LSU. I had that at in there from the UCLA game last week, but LSU just played terrible on defense, but we'll see if they'll be able to correct things when McNeese comes to Baton Rouge. Hopefully everything's okay down in the Baton Rouge area from the hurricane, and people are able to go out and watch that one and things like that. I know there's still some people without power, so we're still thinking about those people. Thoughts and prayers to them. And then, of course, the other cupcake game is Ole Miss taking on Austin Peay here. So, TK, there's those cupcake games. Like you said, they're necessary. They kind of help some of those smaller schools get paid and help their athletic programs run. But after you see a matchup like a Georgia Clemson to open up last week, and this week coming up, you have Ohio State and Oregon playing one another. When you got those kind of premier matchups, it just kind of sucks the life out of it. It kind of makes you question, is that the direction college football should go anymore in terms of those, payday games?
Well, for sure. I mean, you got to look at the programs that are on the rise and the programs that are starting, like a Mercer, and their program is growing. So I think that, and it's grown a lot in the short time. So I think that having an opportunity to play at Alabama against the Nick Saban is, some of these kids, probably never thought that would happen in their life. So that's another thing, man. It's an opportunity for them to go showcase their talents on a big stage.
No doubt. And actually, with Mercer, in fact, they were in the news. I'm gonna pull it up right now. I think Mercer, yes, they beat Point University out of Georgia 69-0 last week. So Mercer can play some ball, but TK, when I say 69-0, Barstool had some fun with that because they scored the touchdown to make it 69. The place kicker misses the extra point, and they're questioning whether he did it on purpose to keep that score at 69. Twitter puts it out. The kicker puts it out on Twitter. He said, "Hey, I had to take one for the team, keep the score at 69." So they were having some fun with that 69 points they hung on Point University.
I love it. You gotta love them cats over there at Barstool, man.
Absolutely. The Barstow guys are hilarious, having some fun with that. But now that we've got kind of the cupcake games out of the way, let's touch on some that maybe aren't too far off, but at least there's some group of 5 teams that have had some success in the recent past. You've got Florida up at the top hand right of your screen if you're watching on the YouTube channel. 29 points they're favored going to. That is absolutely correct. They're actually going to South Florida in this contest. And TK, we've talked about the Florida quarterback situation on our previous show. What's your opinion and how you think maybe Dan Mullen will handle this? Emory Jones struggled mightily, 2 picks against FAU. Anthony Richardson comes in and looks like a Usain Bolt running down the sideline over there, running 160 yards for a touchdown. Do you see him splitting time? I mean, and how do you think that would impact this Florida team as they're trying to get prepared for that SEC schedule?
Right, man. It's so. I've thought about this for a little bit today too. We called it the other day on our show a quarterback situation, quarterback controversy. This could be a blessing in disguise for that team, honestly. Having a team, having 2 guys that can do different things that can hurt you from different ways. We know Emory Jones is capable, but having a guy that can move like Anthony Richardson and run that read option and has wheels at a big 240, 250.
Yeah,
and that's a blessing, bro. When you have 2 guys that you can do different things with, it might be a blessing for that UF offense.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw the spreads back up there again, but 29 points South Florida just got drubbed by NC State, which we'll talk about NC State later on because they're playing Mississippi State and Starkville. But, they got drubbed by NC State 49-0 to open up the season. So this is a game where Florida ought to be able to work those two quarterbacks and try to have some success. I think that 29 number, we're not going to make outright picks here on who's going to win games, but what's your thoughts on the 29 points Florida's getting on the road? That number seem about right to you? Do you like Florida to cover that?
Yeah, it's on the road, but it's in Florida. It's in Tampa. So,
yeah.
Man, I think they cover. I think they do.
Especially after you got to think it's got to be that way. Maybe after NC State, just laid the wood to South Florida off the next week. Now, sometimes teams want to rally and try to play better and home crowd and juice and stuff like that. But Florida probably out athlete USF in that one. Georgia coming off the big victory versus Clemson. This is a UAB team that won 31-0 last week against Jacksonville and Jacksonville State. And also they're coming off a Conference USA championship. They're very well coached in with Bill Clark there, but TK, I just think it's going to be too much athleticism for them. I like Georgia to cover that 26.5. What's kind of your thoughts on this one coming into it?
Yeah, I like us to cover 26.5, kind of pick up where we left off. Definitely I see us trying to get the wideouts more involved. This is probably a game where you will want to throw it around a little bit more, give guys opportunities, get them comfortable, get them kind of going. You know what I'm saying? Getting them ready for the SEC season.
I know some people are going to joke, well, can Georgia cover 26.5? Can they even score 26? Because they only scored, 10 again. It's going to be a totally different defense. And also one thing that people don't understand a lot too is the reason that Georgia wasn't able to get the passing game going. Clemson was playing, sometimes dropping as many as 8 guys in coverage. They were playing a very, very soft zone, some deep safety look, the corners bailing out of there. So, and then also they were able to because they have a great front and linebacking core. They were able to control it with 6 guys in the box.
Right. I mean, they were bringing 3 sometimes, just like we were bringing 3, but the only difference is we was hitting home.
Yeah, and then, but my point on this is with UAB, even if they try to mimic what Clemson did, they don't have the Jimmies and the Joes that Clemson did. So what they're going to end up having to do is Georgia's going to end up hitting more explosive runs. And TK, you know what happens as soon as you start getting more explosive runs, they have to bring a safety down in the box. They play a little bit tighter coverage to try to stop the run, and then there goes Arian Smith and Jermaine Burton and people like that over the top. So I agree with you. I think it'll be more explosive. I think Georgia covers in that one. Now we're going to talk about before we get to some of the premier games, Carolina going to East Carolina, and then Mississippi State hosting NC State at home. So South Carolina road dog, Mississippi State home dog versus NC State. So, TK, when you have 2 SEC programs like that, especially South Carolina, 2-point underdog to East Carolina. I know they're going to East Carolina, where the Pirates play. But still, that's a little hard to swallow when you got, can Zeb Nolan cover that 2 points, and basically that's a pick'em game at +2 for South Carolina. What are your thoughts on do they get enough confidence versus Eastern Illinois with Zeb Nolan to be able to go handle the Pirates over there at East Carolina?
Well, I think ECU gets the points because they're at home. Really, I think Zeb played a really sound game last week. Controlled that offense, controlled the game. Hopefully he can do that again. I feel like his teammates, that coaching staff, Coach Beamer, believes in his abilities, believes in his mind, his football IQ. So I think that they go get it done. I think they cover 2 points.
Yeah, and ECU coming off a tough loss to App State. So this is an ECU team that has experienced players. And in fact, I'm friends with. I used to coach with their offensive line coach, Steve Shankweiler. So I know that, they're going to be well coached up front. They've got Holston Allers, it seems like he's been there at ECU forever. So ECU definitely has the more experienced quarterback in terms of this, but Zeb Nolan only have been at South Carolina a couple of weeks. But, we'll see. This is going to be Shane Beamer's first real test, and we'll see what the culture of that program is like there. But just my opinion on it, TK, is watch out for those Pirates, because Holston Allers is a absolute baller over there. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with those guys, but definitely going to be a different caliber for them too. And they're already one loss have one in the loss column, with App State having taken it to them 33-19 last week. Now Mississippi State and NC State. Poor old Mike Leach, man. Barely beat La Tech, at home in Starkville. Barely beat them by 1 point. And now they got NC State coming in there, who, after what North Carolina did to against Virginia Tech, NC State might be, in my opinion, and then how bad Miami looked against Alabama, NC State could end up being maybe the second best team in the ACC, other than Clemson, right there with the Boston College, somebody like that. They've got Devin Leary coming back, a quarterback who broke his leg last year. He's a dual threat guy, and they smacked South Florida 45-0. Do you think it's warranted that Mississippi State is a 2.5 point underdog at home?
Just like I said, you get them points because you are at home, my man. I think that's telling us a little something. NC State might stick it to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think NC State is going to come in there. They're experienced team. They've got guys who are All-American candidates on their offensive line. And like I said, they're building up to that showdown coming up with North Carolina in a couple weeks. And so hopefully that, for their sake, they're not looking ahead. But the SEC right now is looking in terms of the South Carolina and the Mississippi State matchup. We'll give our official predictions as we go deeper into each matchup on our Friday show. But those two are looking like they could be sticky situations for the SEC going into this one. Guys, if you want to have some fun with all these picks and things going on, you need to make sure to head over to playactionpools.com. We're so excited that our pod is partnering with playactionpools.com this season to bring some interactive fun to the sport we love the most. You'll be able to get in on the action with playactionpools.com football pick'em challenge, which is open to everyone, guys. So here's how it works. Sign up for our contest, the Bleav Football Pick'em, at playactionpools.com, and then get your picks in each week. We're going to select 10 of the highest profile games of the week between NFL and college football. Whoever gets the most picks correct is going to win cool prizes like electric sunglasses, a pair of DC shoes. Again, go and sign up at playactionpools.com using Bleav, that's BLEAV, Football Pick'em. And if you plan on hosting your own football contest, make sure to use playactionpools.com today. They've got Survivor, Pick'em, well as sportsbook style concepts called Build Your Own Bankroll. Play Action Pools, your home for all your office sports pools. Another one right in that same line there, I'll leave it up on the screen, Tennessee. We saw Joe Milton and company. We told you they wouldn't cover the 34.5 versus Bowling Green. They beat them by 32 points. But TK, even though they beat them by 32 points, Joe Milton, 54% completion. We know he was able to do some stuff with his legs, but that Tennessee offense just didn't look yet quite like they're ready to compete in the SEC East, does it?
Yeah, I mean, what we said, Joe Milton has to have guys around him. He was at Michigan. He had some pieces around him. And, again, it's early. It's week one. He's got to get comfortable in that offense as well as getting – once your quarterback's comfortable, everybody else is comfortable. Yeah. So I think once that happens for them, I think that they'll start to be a little better, and I think they'll start to gain confidence and begin to make more plays as a unit.
One thing that they did do well was run the football. Joe Milton had a touchdown that he ran in early on a zone read, and then also Tyon Evans and Jabari Small for Tennessee both rushed for 116 yards each. On the nose, 116 each. So that's kind of a statistical anomaly there. Both of those getting there and there. But TK, I think you've played in Knoxville. You know what that environment's like when Tennessee was a good team. If Tennessee can be in this one, in the thick of it there, with Penn State down in the fourth quarter, if they don't let it get away from them early and things like that, tell people, just from you having experience, how much of an advantage can that Knoxville environment be for Tennessee and Neyland Stadium?
Man, it's a hostile place. It's a hostile, loud place. It could definitely throw a team in week 2 off its rocker, especially from a communication standpoint. So I definitely think if those fans are rocking in Knoxville, if they're in it, if they're in a tough one, Pitt could be in for it.
Yeah, and Kenny Pickett is a senior quarterback for Pittsburgh. So in my opinion, I think this is a true pick'em game, really. But I think the guys in Vegas, the line setters, may be giving Pittsburgh the benefit of the doubt there because of Kenny Pickett, maybe over Joe Milton at this point with how that offense is. So we shall see in terms of that. And then the last one before we get to the 2 big games, you've got Vanderbilt plus 6.5. So they're a 6.5 point road underdog versus Colorado State. I don't know how they're within 6.5. They just lost to East Tennessee State. They should just put minus 6.5 versus it doesn't matter. That's what it should say out beside it, because I mean, Vanderbilt, I mean, does it get much worse, TK? I mean, that is obviously you want the best for those kids, and nobody's wishing ill on that program or anything like that, but you got to, have chuckle a little bit when an SEC program is losing to East Tennessee State, who East Tennessee State, TK, last, 4 or 5 years ago was playing Reinhardt here in Georgia. I mean, what's going on over there in Vandy?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of got to scratch your head a little bit at what's happening, because it kind of does hamper the league a little.
Yeah, and the momentum with that program. Clark,
yeah, again, we talked about it the other day on the show. Coach Franklin, when I was there, bro, we were in some battles with Vandy. So Coach Franklin had that program going this way, and for it to kind of do one of those is kind of weird. So again, you kind of scratch your head to wonder what's happening over there.
Well, and you see, the facilities, TK, when you go to Georgia, when you go to Alabama, when you go to all this, you see the facilities and the money that is put into that. Vanderbilt, a lot of the money goes more into the academic side of it. I mean, there's a lot, and it's a great school. I mean, the medical degree and all that. And hey, people go out and they go out and they get that degree. They go make their paper, saving people's lives and being a lawyer and stuff like that. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. But if Vanderbilt wants to stay relevant, even in terms of mid-tier of college football, and also not be a just absolute pariah in the SEC, they're going to have to invest. And maybe they're starting to do, though, with Clark Lee, but man, the first game of his tenure to lose 23-3 after the uproar they had last year with the kicking situation. I mean, it is just crazy stuff going on there at Vanderbilt. So we'll see what ends up happening. But TK, that brings us to our 2 games of the week here. And we'll talk about the non-conference matchup first. It'll be a future conference matchup, and it's an old Southwestern Conference matchup with Texas coming to Arkansas. Texas wins 38-18 over a good Louisiana Lafayette team who was ranked 23rd under Billy Napier. And Texas starts off the Sark era with a good win there. Sam Pittman's built up momentum, had a much better year last year than anybody thought he would. He had Georgia on the ropes at the opening game last year as his old squad. TK, this is going to be a rocking environment there in Fayetteville, another place you've played at and been to when they were a decent ball club.
First touch.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Over TK's shoulder, if you're listening on the podcast for me, he's got a picture of him at Georgia playing at Arkansas, catching his first touchdown pass. So like I said, another environment. You've been there when they've been good, when they've been relevant. What is that going to be like? What do you anticipate that matchup being like with Texas and Arkansas this upcoming week?
It'll be one of those knockout, punch-out type of games, man. It'll be loud in there, pig suey. It's gonna be rocking in there for sure. Those people come to see those guys, but man, I think that they're in for it from a defensive perspective. I think that Deshaun Robinson for Texas is a really, really, really good explosive player out of the backfield, 73 yards receiving, and then and a tug and a touchdown, and then 103 on the ground with a touchdown. So I think that in order for Arkansas to come out on top, bro, they're going to have to honestly make those guys one-dimensional and make them have to throw the ball because, again, Bijan Robinson is just
he's a beast.
Yeah, he's a little joystick, man. So I think that he's a really special player. But on the other side of that, you got a guy, Bumper Pool.
Bumper Pool. What a name. If you're having to give out names, last year when you had Bumper Pool on one side and Stetson Bennett on the other side, I mean, that's a battle of names right there. You absolutely love that when Stetson Bennett had to come in and try to rescue that game for Georgia at Fayetteville. But you just mentioned it with Bijan Robinson. He is a fantastic playmaker, and Sam Pittman and company are going to have to lean on their leading tackler, their leader, Bumper Pool. Yeah.
Bumper Pool is one of those cats that's flying around the ball. He ain't trying to run around nothing. No. He's running through it. He one of those just hard-nosed Ray Lewis type cats. He's trying to punish you. And I think that this weekend that those two will lock face mask a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. And that fits right in with the personality that Sam Pittman has, right? He's an offensive line coach by trade. He's got to love a guy like a Bumper Pool who seems like he's been around at Arkansas for 10 years now. So definitely a guy that the fans, love over there, but he's going to be crucial in that matchup. One other thing that you need to see out of Arkansas, and I think one reason that Arkansas is a 6.5-point home underdog in this one is because KJ Jefferson was a little erratic, only completed 12 out of 21 passes. I think a lot of people, Vegas is probably putting a lot of stock in Steve Sarkisian's ability to dial up plays to get people open. You saw what he did at Alabama last year. A lot of times those guys were, wide open just by the concept alone. So Sark is, he's done it with the Falcons. He's done it with the Crimson Tide of Alabama over there. So a lot to really like in that match. We're going to see if Barry Odom, when he was the head coach at Missouri, he's now the defensive coordinator at Arkansas, year 2 there. He's got that system kind of working. So I'm really going to love seeing that matchup of Barry Odom. When he was at Missouri, what I was going to say, TK, he gave Georgia and some other people fits in terms of the scheme that he would put out on the field, that they're a hard-nosed team. But Barry Odom, great defensive coordinator there. Steve Sarkisian, great offensive mind. So that's going to be a wonderful matchup. And then maybe the game of the week in terms of it just being a interconference matchup, TK, getting to see 2 SEC teams go at it. You got Missouri, who we both disrespected a little bit, saying that Central Michigan was gonna take them down.
Coach, right?
What now?
They didn't have their coach.
Yeah. But so you're saying if the Chippewas had Jim McElwain on the sideline, that Missouri would have went down?
Man, yeah.
I got you. So, but what's your thoughts on? But we're not going to make a prediction on this one yet. But what's your thoughts on the line with Kentucky being a 5.5-point favorite at home? Missouri coming to them. Will Levis, the new quarterback for Kentucky, had a very big game against Louisiana Monroe. Does that line seem a little bit accurate to you, or would you give maybe Kentucky a few more in terms of the betting aspect of it?
Yeah, in terms of the betting aspect, I'm definitely going to give those guys a few more points. Will Levis, 4 tuggies last week, was electric. It looked different. Had that offense looking different. I think you and I talked about it before. They looked like a different Kentucky. So with Mizzou struggling a little bit, only beating those cats by 10, I'm going to have to say that Kentucky's going to hang more than +5 on them.
Yeah, so maybe that line should be up over a touchdown, something like that at least. But when you got, one aspect of this game that I'm kind of intrigued by that they may end up be Vegas's reason for trying to keep it a little bit closer is Tyler Beatty for Missouri. He had 203 rushing yards in that game. He's replacing Larry Roundtree, who is the all-time leading rusher there at Missouri. Well, he did a great job replacing him in that first game. 203 yards rushing. I mean, you just don't, TK, you don't see many guys go for 2 bills in a game on the ground anymore. I mean, it's just not done very much. That's like Adrian Peterson and Nick Chubb stuff that they used to do back in college days. So, but I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball as effectively against that Mark Stoops coached defense. So Connor Bazelak, the second-year Missouri quarterback, he's going to have a lot more on his shoulders in this game.
Yeah, 100%. Coach Stoops will have those cats ready to roll defensively. He always has. Always throwing some crazy blitzes out there, so he'll have those guys ready.
Absolutely, and did want to mention, guys like Deontay Smith, like Kiki Chisholm, they're going to have to step up because Kentucky also always is very aggressive on defense. They play a lot of match zone and tough man coverage schemes over there under Mark Stoops, and they'll be bringing the pressure as well. But guys, that is our Wednesday show here on Second and None, where we just kind of like to give a little taste of each game and kind of go in and tell you the factors you need to be thinking of, maybe what Vegas is thinking a little bit. Make sure to tune in on Friday's episode where TK and I will throw down our picks. We're even going to give some score prediction this week. So TK,
and we'll have a special guest in the booth.
And we'll have a special guest. So we're gonna have a special guest. It's gonna be a fantastic show. We're gonna get into way more into that Texas and Arkansas matchup, way more into the Kentucky and Missouri matchup, and Tennessee, Pittsburgh. Some of those games that we expect to be the better games. And like I said, TK and I will have score predictions. We'll have some player performances that we want you to be on the lookout for. So TK, got some homework before our Friday episode. Get after it, man, with the research, and we'll catch all you guys next time here on Second and None. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the 365 YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the notification button. You can catch the podcast, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast. We're a member of the Bleav Podcast Network and presented by BetOnline and PlayActionPools.com. We'll catch you next time on Second and None.